So how do we feel to define the TCM in Western scientific term?
That's a very good question.
Yeah.
Because one of the things with that is that the problem with defining TCM by a culture and a philosophy or a cultural philosophy it is not based in automatically causes an issue. Number one, it creates a favoritism. It says that we judge things only by a white European standard. And to be honest, modern science is based on a white European standard.
So you mean modern science some kind of racial?
It has racist undertone. And people will say, no, it doesn't. Think about this. Where does modern science identify its origins? The ancient Greeks. It does not identify its origins with any other group than the ancient Greeks. So with that said, you don't find modern science identifying mathematicians in China who have built things like bridges and Great Wall and other things as being incredible people in the history of science. No, you find them identifying Greeks and Europeans, Italians and British and all these people as being great. But you don't find them identifying Africans, right?
Yep.
Who developed incredible things. The origins of algebra come from Arabic peoples and peoples who were Islamic from the Middle East. They identify the idea that calculus was developed by Sir Isaac Newton. However, calculus was also defined, and I don't know his name, but you can look this up. It was also created by a Chinese man hundreds of years before Sir Isaac Newton.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. He had no use for it. So it was written down, the fundamental theories of calculus, and put away. Why? Because there was no use for it. But he still created it. All right? Well, how did he create it? Not using the basis of Western mathematics. Mathematics is universal, but philosophy, which gave rise to Western mathematics, comes from a Western philosophy. The philosophy he used to create calculus was based on a Chinese 中国文化 philosophy.
Yeah.
So, in many cases, the usage and the idea of how it's created were different. For example, the idea of measuring the area of something was figured out by Greeks, right? But it was probably figured out by Africans. It was also figured out by Chinese.
Yep.
But the Chinese did not learn it from the Greeks. The Chinese mathematician learned to do it by footsteps around a field and then walking through the center of the field and then using that to calculate the field. The Greeks did not do it like that. They used different ways.
Yep.
The Chinese were an agricultural society. They were using it in a practical manner to measure field area, to grow things. So, with that said, this is very important. The Chinese had created things like earthquake meters, using the basic
候分地动仪.
Yeah. Using the basic ideas of yin yang and Chinese cultural philosophy. It was not dependent on Western philosophy. So, with that said, if you were forced to define TCM, 中医, by 西医, you will always find that it will never be able to compete because it's as if I judged 中文 by 英文. 英文 is an entirely different language.
Yeah.
Are there similarities? Absolutely. But to judge the two, they are based on a different idea of observing the world.
Yeah.
中医 is based on a different idea of observing the world than 西医. Do they overlap at times? Yes, absolutely. And in those times, you could say, wow, this is great. But 中医 should be judged by 中医 and its effectiveness as 中医.
Yeah.
西医 can be judged by 西医 and its effectiveness as 西医.
Yeah, they can learn from each other, but not judge each other. Yeah.
Here's what it is. When we say complementary, right, this is the problem. We say, oh, we should mix the two to make something better. This is a problem in my mind. Because what it is you don't actually get an equal mix. What you get is, we're Shi Daifu. We will treat the real problem. You're Zhongyi Daifu. You just go make the person feel okay. That's not equal.
It's arrogant.
It's arrogance.
Yeah.
In the United States, we had something we called separate but equal. So in the United States, for many years, we had a lot of racism. We still do. We had a time where we called separate but equal. Black people could not hang out with white people. They went to black schools. White people went to white schools. And we said, oh, but they'll be equal. They'll be separate, but they'll be equal. Guess what? Separate but equal is not equal.
Yeah.
It's not equal, ever. So, if you want something to actually converge and work together, your patient has to be able to choose Zhongyi and have the respect of the Shi Daifu and say, okay, they chose Zhongyi, I respect that.
Yeah.
In order to be equal. Right now, if you were to choose Zhongyi over Shi, your Daifu would look down at you, your doctor would look down at you and say,
crazy.
why do you do this? Da-da-da-da. Yeah. That is not equal. That's not equal.
That's arrogance.
That's arrogance.
That's racial.
That's racist.
Yeah.
And it's racist not because you're Chinese, but because you have an intrinsic idea within yourself that your own culture and the incredible methods that your culture has developed do not measure up to Lao culture. And that's just a load of bullshit. That's just not good.
Chinese people always wait for the Western people to tell us what is cool.
And that's not right, exactly. That's not right. You know that it's good because it's been around for 4,000 years. The Neijing has survived. The Nanjing has survived. The Jiayijing has survived. Shanghanlun has survived. Wenbing, right? Wenbing was treating the plague before they were treating it in Europe. So we're talking about hemorrhagic fevers where people were bleeding. They developed an entirely new type of treatment. Now, in my belief, Wenbing has not stopped developing. Wenbing is still evolving. Now, Chinese medicine is still evolving. It's not dead. It's not frozen in time. But Wenbing specifically is still growing much more than, say, Shanghanlun is because of the fact that we're finding these new diseases, Ebola, hemorrhagic fevers. For example, SARS. SARS was first treated effectively by a Wenbing doctor in Nanbian, the Zhongguo. So it was first treated successfully. Then what happened? Pharmaceutical companies from the West who were treating with Western medicine realized this, and they analyzed the formula. And they said, oh, let's just extract the components we want. Now here's a problem with that. In Western medicine, we look at active components, right? So we look at these active extracts.
有效物质.
Yes, active ingredient. This is getting us in trouble. The reason why is we're looking for a single molecule that will do something. Oftentimes, it's not a single molecule that does something. It's the entire plant or the entire formula in synergy, in harmony that does it. If that's the case, and not a single molecular compound can be identified, then the entire formula, the entire herb, is written off as being non-effective because you cannot find an active compound. This is a big problem. I'll give you an example. Lavender. Lavender itself has been found, the extracts of lavender have been found to treat burns. But not a single chemical that can be identified in lavender treats burns individually. Because of that, lavender has been written off for lavender washes and things to treat burns as not being effective, and people laugh at it. However, lavender works very well to treat burns. I've used it before. In this case, you're writing it off because the current way that you observe science
is shallow.
You're not able to open up your mind to the fact that maybe other cultures understand a deeper version of observation and hypothesis than you do. That is a very weak idea that can go back as far as the invasion of Laowai, the Opium Wars, the Qing Dynasty. Many of those things can go back as far as that, where the Chinese started judging themselves by outside cultures instead of their own heart, instead of their own Chinese heart. And that's
when we start to lost our pride and lost our... So here is our second argument of...